Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to This is Nino TV. We're back on the channel. This time we have a guest that you've seen before on the channel, but this time he's going to come in and share his story. He's going to share his journey, where he come from, and how he got to where he's at now. But before we continue, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share this interview and show support. All right, so I'm not going to continue talking anymore. We're going to go straight into what his journey is. And today we got Hector. As you guys know, Taino Barber in the house.
Thanks for having me on again.
So, how you got to the point that you're at from the beginning? Let's talk about your past and hear a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from?
So, I was born in Philly, raised in Puerto Rico. My parents moved us back stateside around 98, 97. I was around 8 or 9 when we moved up here again. We went from Puerto Rico straight to Tampa. Lived in Tampa for a while. 813 all the way, by the way.
Yeah, I'm from 813, just so you know. Even though you say I'm not
barely,
from 813, right?
Barely, but we won't get into it.
I got the same area code.
Yeah. So we moved to Tampa because my parents wanted a better life, man. Economically it was better, opportunity better, all of it, than what we would have gotten back home. So we moved up here. We were in Tampa for a couple of years until my parents decided to buy a house. Then we moved to Spring Hill. All in all, I did all my schooling and stuff in Tampa. I barely came up here for school.
So your parents used to drive 30 minutes to 40 minutes back down to Tampa?
Yeah, because my mom and my dad both worked in Tampa no matter what. So my mom used to get like special permits and stuff for us to go to school in Tampa. And I just liked down there more, so I stayed down there.
So you grew up pretty much in the city,
Yeah,
as it is.
Tampa.
For those that don't know, Tampa is a major city of Florida, right? There's a lot of people probably might not know. I'm pretty sure a lot of people know now, but and how was that for you? How was that upcoming, coming from the city? Now you move into a suburb area, because I know Spring Hill wasn't as populated as it is now.
When we moved up here, it sucked because there's nothing. We say there's nothing here now, but there was really nothing here back then. Like the major roadways that we see now definitely weren't here before. So it was boring. So I spent most of my time in Tampa with all of the friends that I made when I was down there. That was like, I want to say like 80% of my time was spent down there.
And you weren't the only kid. How many of you? How many kids your mom have?
Two. It's me and my younger brother.
You and your younger brother. So both of y'all were going to school back in Tampa.
Yeah, there's 3 of us now, but step sibling. Me and my actual my brother. We would go down to Tampa, for schooling, like I said, and come up here and just spend pretty much the weekends here.
So you guys had somebody living up in Spring Hill at the time, though, other than you guys just moving out here? It was
my dad
was out here too.
But but my grandparents moved up here, down here from Connecticut after we moved up here. My dad knew somebody from work that lived up here. We came out for like a birthday party or a get together or something like that, and they found the place. They liked the place, and it was a lot cheaper to live here and commute to Tampa. So that's what they did.
Yeah, it was so cheap out here. I know a lot of people that paid super cheap. And they $40,000, $60,000 for their houses.
I think my parents bought the first house for like $60,000, bro.
Wow,
nuts.
Wow, it's probably the equity on that house right now has to be stupid. Well, they don't live there anymore, do they?
No. They sold that place a long time ago.
So, tell us a little bit more about your journey, right? I know now we went from, you went from Puerto Rico going to Tampa. How was that change for you? Going from just knowing Spanish, going to school, Spanish schools, pretty much the opposite of being a no sabo kid, right? Where you were forced to learn English and have to adapt to.
It was easy to learn though, because kids are resilient. So when you can't watch cartoons in Spanish, you're forced to watch them in English. When you can't watch a movie in Spanish, you're forced to watch it in English. So we learned decently quick. But I'm ESOL for life. English is a second language. um, bro, it's difficult to go from uh inner city to the country, not even the suburbs, straight country.
Yeah, because like I
Because
said,
this was
it
yeah,
wasn't as
it
popular
was
as it is now.
difficult. So because I think when we moved here, like the population of Spanish people was like maybe like if at most 20 families.
Oh,
So it was real tough. A lot of racism.
what year was that?
Right for 2000, right for the
Wow, so
millennium.
you came in there,
Yeah.
like super new. I remember coming out here back in 2000. I think it was like 2011, 2012. I had some friends that lived out here. I used to live out in Zephyr Hills, and I would take a ride out here once in a while. And they were building. They were barely making 50. You know, they were like expanding the street out there,
Mhm.
and everything was like like 2 lane roads out
Listen,
here.
when I moved here, there was one Walmart, and it wasn't even a Walmart Supercenter. There was one Dunkin' Donut, um, a movie theater, and two main roadways. So like
So pretty much everything was just all on 19. Pretty much
1950
commercial.
Spring Hill Drive. That was it.
Wow. And after that, what changes? So you entered
So
what?
yeah, so I go into junior high school. I did all my junior high school in Tampa. Um, High school I did both Tampa and here. When my mom was like, "Okay, I'm not working down there anymore. You got to come to school up here." I was like in 10th grade.
Was she single mom
Yeah,
or?
my mom was a single mom. My dad left when I was like 13. So mom was tired of moving back and forth from Tampa, like the commute. So she got a job closer to home, um, which forced me to come and do schooling up here. Um, and it like I said, it sucks because you go from inner city where you speak the same language, people look like you, people talk like you, to coming up in here in the country. There was a lot of racism. There was a lot of hate because we were different, talked different, and because we're different, we clicked.
Yeah, and I don't know if people know, but when you go into the country, man, that accent of somebody that comes from the city is very hard.
And I didn't
Like,
even have like a hard accent anymore. You hear me? I don't have a
yeah, not no
Spanish
more, but
accent.
maybe at that
Even
time.
even then, like because I've been here enough to know so much more English than I did Spanish.
Yeah, but when you hear somebody that comes from Tampa, their talking is different. Their
Okay, I can
lingo,
see where you say it. Yeah, yeah,
their
yeah, yeah.
lingo is very
Yeah.
different. So they already know that you don't. I would say,
Oh, we
sort of
don't
say
belong.
you
We
don't
don't
belong
belong.
here,
Yeah.
right? Uh, and and we know that a lot of people still confuse you and not knowing that you're
Mhm.
Hispanic or whatever. But it's tough for a lot of the kids to adjust to all those changes.
And it was especially tough, like I said, because there wasn't as much ethnic youth in Spring Hill when I was coming up. Like there was like a bunch of us, a handful. And I went to school in Central High School. It's a country school, like it's all the way in the boondocks. So it was even worse. It wasn't like Springstead High School, which is got more in the city, so to speak.
Hmm.
Um, and bro, I had a rough time. I To the point where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna drop out. I'm done. I was in in a culinary class, and the chef um looked at us and said that we had to speak English, that we weren't allowed to speak Spanish in his class. Mind you, 95% of his class was all Hispanic kids. Like we all,
Really?
yeah, it was the only class that was like majority Hispanics. Um, and I wasn't having it. My tongue don't stop for nobody. So
I'm pretty
we
sure you probably
oh
wanted.
no, I went off. I let him have it, and then I thought things had calmed down, and then he threw out a racial slur, which I was not about to have. So I cocked back and I decked him, and the school wanted to punish me instead of him. I mean, he's the adult; he should deal with his situation. Um, and after that, I made the decision just to go ahead and drop out.
So you dropped out in what grade? You
10th
say
grade.
10th grade, and you decided to go. How many years after you got what you ended up getting
I
out? I'm pretty sure
graduated.
you got your
I got
GED.
my GED that same year. My mom, I got emancipated so that I could work full time like an adult.
Uh-huh.
I got my GED that same year, so I graduated a whole 2 years before anybody else that I knew. And I went to work. I worked in the kitchen since I was 15. It comes naturally. My dad was a chef for a long time. Um, so it was something that came natural. And I did that. I worked in the kitchen all my life, in and out.
And I know before you came into this industry, you came from a kitchen. We'll be talking about that little down the story, right? But I know you ended up doing wrestling for so long. What got you into wrestling?
So, I mean, I've been a fan of wrestling since I can remember. Right. When we lived in Puerto Rico, every Saturday and Sunday from 10 to noon, there was wrestling on the TV, and that's what we did. We sat down around the TV and watched wrestling every Saturday
What'd
and
you do?
Sunday.
Like play? You had
I mean, I played with my brother, I played with my dad, with my cousins, with my uncles, um, and where I was like, okay, this is the one moment, the one specific was like, I was like, this is what I want to do. My dad took me to a live wrestling show in Caguas, La Cancha Bajo Techo de Cagua, which is it's a big deal for us as far as like
hmm
um, wrestling goes. And bro, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the feeling of the people, of of the noise of the crowd, being able to see your people sitting there and cheering and booing, and the roller coaster ride that a wrestler takes you on.
And did just like it just happened? Where you ended up? You said I'm gonna go walk
No,
into
hell
a.
no, it's hard, bro. It's hard to get into wrestling. I mean, maybe not so much now, right? Because I hate to say it like this, but anybody can get into wrestling now. It's whether or not you last. When I was when I was looking for wrestling schools, um, it was difficult to find them. When I did find one, um, I found one in Tampa. It was run by Dean Malenko.
hmm
Um,
I remember him in
eh,
WWE, back then
WWE,
WWF,
WCW.
right?
But it was a residential area. It was basically where he used to live at, and he wasn't there anymore. So that was a bust. And then I ran to Mineola to offer the Wild Samoan, but it seemed too far at that point. I was like 17, and then I found one in Ocala with Dory Funk Jr., the conservatory, and even then it was still too far for me. So at the age of 17 is when I made the decision: hey, I'm not going to go to culinary school. I don't want to pursue being in a kitchen anymore, which ended up not happening the way I
Uh-huh.
wanted it to. Um, I'm going to be a professional wrestler, and having to have that conversation with the people you love is rough.
How'd they take that? Because I
Um,
mean,
Bro,
it's not easy,
my
right?
mom,
Seeing you get beat up
yeah,
and
my mom took it rough. My mom straight up told me that she wasn't going to help me. That she didn't want to see me get beat up. That she didn't want to see me get hurt. So that I was on my own. That I had to figure it out on my own. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. I mean, I you kind of already know what you're getting into certain situations, right? So, I knew she wasn't going to take it well, and I knew that neither of my parents at that point, my mom and my dad were already split up. We're going to be down for it. My dad wanted me to follow in his footsteps. My mom was willing to pay for me to follow in his footsteps. Um, so when I changed course radically. Um, they weren't down with it. But I've done martial arts since I was 13, and it was just kind of like that next step, you know.
yeah.
So
So you were already fighting even when you were younger,
yeah,
because you told me mom was already a single mom at the age of 13. So obviously you're the bigger brother. Now you're doing stuff. I don't know, maybe to fill in that gap of being the man of the house. Because I
actually,
know it happens.
none of any fight that I got into, like growing up, were because of
Oh, so it's always somebody
no.
else's fault.
It was actually always my younger brother. It was always
Also, he was a troublemaker, and you
my
always had
brother
a
would
sticker
open his
brother.
mouth, and I had to come save him. So and it happened a lot. It
So,
happened like
so you sure it wasn't you?
no, dead ass. It
So,
wasn't.
so if we ask your mom right now,
You can ask her, bro. I
the
was a good kid.
chancletazo was to both of you,
No,
but it was his fault.
yeah, I took one, but it was because of him. But yeah, um, but I did that, and so from 17 to 22, I just bounced from kitchen to kitchen. I ended up moving back to Tampa at age 18 because my dad wanted to help me out, and he's like, "Listen, there's a wrestling school down here," because at that point there was a FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, on South Del Mabry. What I didn't know back then is that it was WWE's developmental program, so they weren't even taking new students. So I went out there on a whim, right? And I found that out after I was already there, and I'd already uprooted from Spring Hill back to Tampa, so I was like, I'm staying. Um, by then I'd already met my then girlfriend, my wife now. Um,
You had your kids already.
no, we ended up finding out that she was pregnant while I was in Tampa, so we just
Oh
stayed in
wow! So
Tampa.
you had just
Yeah, we just stayed in Tampa. Worked because obviously now she's pregnant, right? So I'm 18. I got my girlfriend pregnant. I'm scared. So what am I gonna do? I go to work. Nothing to it but to do it, right? You gotta get it. That baby's gonna need diapers, gonna need food, etc.
and in the culture that we live in, a lot of our parents telling if you get your
Yeah, you
girlfriend
messed up. You
pregnant, you
gotta
messed
deal with
up.
it.
That's on you.
Yep.
I'm not taking care of your kids. That's your responsibility.
Yeah,
Because that's the way we grown up. I know it's different, and uh, there's other cultures where they actually help out and take in a lot of kids. I think we live in a different time right now too, where a lot of parents are not as strict as they used to be. I think they used to put that fear into us. So, well, if you get her
definitely.
pregnant, that's your
Yeah, oh yeah.
responsibility.
So at first because I was living with my dad, we were staying with my dad for a little bit. Um, we get our own apartment, we have the baby, and we're driving. We're actually in Spring Hill hanging out one day, and we're driving on Northcliffe going to 19, and there's a intersection there. So if you're coming southbound and I'm going northbound, there's an intersection to go east to west into a plaza, and there's a stop sign in that intersection. The lady saw the stop sign, makes a stop, but continues to go. So we end up T-boning her,
Oh,
right? And this is all getting into how I got into wrestling. Um, when I was in the passenger seat, I saw the accident coming, and I put both knees on the dashboard.
wow! I can
Which
already see where this is going.
stupid because if the airbag had blown up, it would have completely shattered my whole lower part, like knees, legs, hips, everything.
Yeah, because with the amount of pressure that really comes out.
But my right knee was more pressured into the dashboard than my left, so I threw my hip out of place.
Ouch!
Um, and I didn't notice it because the adrenaline runs. I didn't notice it for about an hour later. By then, I was already at my grandparents' house. We're already hanging out. My adrenaline's coming down. I went to go get up off the couch and I collapsed. I couldn't move. My hip was out like here. It was nasty.
Oh,
My grandfather helped me into the car. We go to the emergency room. They pop my head back into place, and I went 6 months intense physical therapy. I couldn't sit. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't stand up. Like we're talking about 5 minutes at a time for everything. In pain all the time. But from that hardship came a nice check.
so you ended up suing and
Oh
getting
yeah.
getting
Oh yeah,
paid for
definitely.
this accident, even though if it was your fault.
It wasn't our fault. She ran the stop sign.
Oh, so she T-boned
Yeah.
you.
No, I T-boned her. We T-boned her like that, right? But
Oh, because she had
because
ran
she
the
ran the
stop
stop
sign. Yeah.
sign,
Okay. Okay.
there was no she didn't have the time, basically.
Yeah.
Um came a good check. And out of that check I paid for wrestling school. I was told you shouldn't wrestle. You should stop doing martial arts. Your injury, because it pinched my lower lumbar area, it's not a matter of if, but when I would become paralyzed. Eventually, the nerves would seal up, and I wouldn't be able to feel from waist down. I was like, nah, I want to wrestle. I'm gonna wrestle. I have a kid, and I've never been one to conform to the society norm. Just because I have a kid and a family doesn't mean I have to go bury myself in a cubicle 9 to 5, be miserable for 40 years, retire, live another 20, and then die. Like, that's just not me.
You had that open mindset. That
Yeah.
open mindset, yeah.
Does it make it difficult? Yes, absolutely. It makes it a lot more difficult to have a kid at 18 and pursue a selfish career, because wrestling is selfish. There's nothing about wrestling that screams family orientated. As an entertainment, yes. As the entertainer, no. Wrestlers, any wrestler that you talk to that's successful in this business has been married 3, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times.
Why do you think it's that? What creates that in that industry?
The time away from the family, the temptation of the road. It comes with a lot.
Probably pain and
Pain,
well,
of course.
pretty sure that with pain comes a lot of drug abuse and stuff
Yes.
like that
No,
to numb away a lot of those pains.
none of the no a lot of the wrestlers, I wouldn't say none. A lot of the wrestlers that I look up to are gone, and they're gone at an early age, 35, 40, 42, you know. Heart attacks, overdoses.
You had any like really close friends that you lost for in situations like
No.
that?
No, luckily thankfully no. I've had people that I know that have passed away that I've been close to, but from other things, not drug related. So like I had 2 friends or 2 good acquaintances, people that we traveled with that I know a lot, that died in ring, heart attack, young kids. And I say kids because they were under 35. They're just getting started. And then we had one that passed away from cancer. And I think the last one was an actual overdose, but we don't really know. So
There's nothing to really confirm
right.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, so I got into wrestling. I went and with that check, I paid for my wrestling school. I went to Ocala. Shout out to Dory Funk Jr., the conservatory. Best, if you're looking for wrestling schools and you want the best basics around, the conservatory is where it's at. The man's a Hall of Famer.
That's a school. That's somebody that does it like from Ocala.
Yes. Sorry.
Oh, you good?
Dory Funk is a Hall of Famer. NWA World Heavyweight Champion back in his day. His brother Terry Funk as well, rest in peace. Hall of Famer. NWA wrestling champ back in the day as well. they instilled in me work, the ethic, the being safe, the being able to work the crowd and learn in the ring. So that was my first training camp. From there, I met Puerto Rican Hound Dog. We met through Facebook, I think it's what it was.
No, all this is still at the age of 18.
No, I'm at this point I'm like 22.
Also,
yeah, a couple of years have passed by.
Yeah.
I'm 22. I met Puerto Rican Hound Dog through Facebook, and he lives in Port Richey, which is like 20 minutes from here.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down there, I met him, and I started training with him on the days that I couldn't train in Ocala. And then there was days where I would double it. I would train with him in the morning and go train in Ocala at night. Right?
How many days were you doing this? Like
5 days a week. 5 days a week plus my shoot job, my regular job, working in the kitchen.
So you just
I would leave
around kitchen to kitchen, just trying to pursue that dream of becoming a wrestler. Obviously, you were already a pro wrestler, what they consider a pro wrestler. But we all know that there's that higher scale that making it to when we call the pros, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your mind, when people really think about when you really make it, it's going into like WWE, right?
Yeah, bro. So WWE is always the primary goal when you get into professional wrestling. If you're not trying to get to the big leagues or the major leagues or the NBA or the NFL, why are you in the sport? You know? But if it wasn't for that accident, if it wasn't for that money that I got, I would never been able to go into professional wrestling because professional wrestling schools are expensive. On top of getting gear, boots, all that, everything costs something. Um, had I known then what I know now, I probably would have done things a little bit different. Um, I would have still gone to wrestling school, but the amount of money that I got for that accident, I would have bought a house. I would have
What was
invested it
that?
a little
What
bit
was that
more.
amount that you?
So because both me and my wife were in the car, um, we got close to 100 grand
Wow. What year was this?
in 2012.
So 2012. We're talking about probably double the money than what it is right now.
Yeah, and the housing market was it was just
Yeah.
starting to recuperate from the '08 crash.
Yeah. So you were in a very, very good
I could
position
have
with that
I could
type,
have bought 2 houses with the money that I
that type
got.
of money. Yeah. Because right now that probably we all know that that probably is nothing right
No,
now. But that
um,
time market was lower. So
yeah. So but we're young, so we
Mhm.
made mistakes, and instead of buying a house, I went and bought a motorcycle and bought 2 cars and bought you know toys to play with and paid my rent for a year because I thought that was the cool thing to do, and I don't have to worry about it. And
yeah, because once you paid that rent for
yeah,
that one
I didn't
year,
have to worry.
now you have the rest of the money to blow it. Right.
Right,
Pretty much. And
and blow it. We did. We went on trips. I paid for wrestling school. Uh, you know,
now for a lot of people, right? They would think, well, if he's a pro, right? Because we all know that being a pro, then in people's head is like you're making money. You're 3 years into 3 4 years into wrestling.
I was just starting to make money.
You were just starting.
Yeah. So
Wow.
what people don't get is that everything comes with a process, right? They're like, "Oh, you're a professional wrestler, you make money." No. Um, Professional wrestling is a carny sport. So if I can make money without paying you, or without paying you as much, it's more in my pocket. And
This
that's how
is
the
by the event organizers.
that's a lot of how the promoters work. So your first year, first 2 years, if you get an envelope at the end of the show, count yourself lucky. Um, if
So by you saying if you get
if
envelope, that means that
if
there's
because a
people
lot
that
of
don't
what
get
would
paid.
happen would be like, hey, thanks, brother, I appreciate you. The door was a little light. I can't pay you today. Sorry.
Really?
Yeah,
And what happens there? Like what?
you gotta take your ball and go home. There's nothing that happens there. What are you gonna fight the promoter?
Wow, that's
So,
crazy.
and a lot of what happens is like there's 5 of us in a car, so we're splitting gas. We're eating dollar menu or gas station food. When there was a dollar menu back then, because there's no dollar menu now.
That don't exist no more.
Um, and we ride like that. I rode with people like that for like, bro, I want to say my first 4 years of wrestling. Up and down the East Coast, all the way as far out as Louisiana, as far north as Tennessee, and as far south as Miami.
And at this point, you told me that you knew that your wife was pregnant.
Yeah, so
you take your daughter with you. Your wife stays behind.
I find no, my wife stayed home with our oldest. I through Dory Funk, I was given the opportunity to go to Puerto Rico and wrestle for Carlos Colon's company, WWC,
WWC.
World Wrestling Council, which is WWE for the Caribbean. And I wrestled in our Madison Square Garden in front of my family, in front of our home. And for me, that was it. I didn't have to do anything else. I was happy. I could have retired that moment right there, and it would have been good for me.
In your mind,
In my mind, that was it.
Not because of the bank, not because
No, not because that was
not
it.
because the pockets were deep.
I wrestled where I wanted to wrestle. I wrestled for the company that I wanted to wrestle. But there was things that tainted that experience for me. There was a lot of things that tainted that experience for me. Um, they say never meet your heroes. That's true. And I will shout it out. Pepe, Jose Huerta Gonzalez, El Invader. I tell you, I don't like him. I really don't.
Why
I
is
really
it
don't.
something really personal? Like you,
Super arrogant. He doesn't give a damn about the young blood. He doesn't want to train young blood. He doesn't want to show young blood. He treats you like you're nobody. And he still thinks that at his age now, the people go into the building to see him. They don't do that. You're just a novelty act, sir. Go sit down. And I know that probably he'll see this and he doesn't remember me, and that's okay. But I looked up to him. I saw him growing up, and as Urudo, the bad guy, that's one of the ones that I looked up to. That's one of the ones that I emulated. The ones I want to be like. So to meet him and to get that reaction back, I was like, you know what, man?
Into that
Never
moment,
again. I can't say anything bad about Carlos Colon. Super professional. I've gotten the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the industry. And a lot of our Puerto Rican stars that were awesome. Taught you, mentored you.
You got Chiqui Style. You got
Chiqui. I've never had the opportunity to meet.
Rico Suave.
Rico Suave was my manager and mentor for 2 years for IWA. Shout out to Rico. Rico donde esté. Saludo. Shane the Glamour Boy. We met in Tampa one night at a show. He didn't have to stop. He didn't have to say hi. He didn't have to sit down for a conversation with me for 20 minutes, and he did it. Thank you. But then there's that upside. There's that other side of people that, you know, Invader number one will always be the top douche. There's no other word.
For there that you said, forget it. That's when you changed.
Yeah, for
the way of
after that, when I came home, Puerto Rico lights a fire because there's no place like wrestling in Puerto Rico, and even the higher up professionals will tell you when you go down there, 100 people sound like 1,000, 1,000 sound like 1,000,000 because they're diehard fans. So it lit a fire, and all I wanted to do was work that style of wrestling in the United States.
Because it was different.
Because it was different. It was storytelling. And it was raw. One of the things a lot of promoters say it when I cut a promo, they don't know whether I'm being for real, whether I'm telling the truth, or whether I'm playing my character. The key to that is it's 60-40, and I'll let you decide what the 60-40 is.
You choose.
Yeah. It's always 60-40. It's always 60% truth, 40% bullshit, or vice versa. It's up to you to decide what's what.
I like that. I might start using that myself. I think I'm gonna take that one for you.
and it is true. You let them decide, and the people ate it up.
Did you ever get stuck in that role at some point? Like, how was it for you? How was it for you to separate yourself from that role and coming home and being that normal person? Right.
At home in my four walls is not hard because I'm with my family. I can let my guard down. Those are the people that I love. They know me for who I am, right? Outside in the street, it's difficult because you start to wrap your life around that persona. You start to wrap your life around that character, and it starts to define who you are. When I came back from Puerto Rico, I find out that my wife is pregnant with our second child.
This was what year? So 9 months before she was born, pretty much.
2014.
2014, yeah, because she's about the same age as my daughter,
right? We unfortunately lost that pregnancy. She was a tubal, or the baby was tubal pregnancy, because my wife had an IUD in. And we unfortunately went through that heartache of losing that child.
That must have been devastating. Huh?
It was rough, man. I'd just come home from probably the highest high, being able to wrestle in our Madison Square Garden for the company that I grew up watching, for the people that I grew up watching. To come home and get hit with, hey, I'm pregnant again. And a month and a half later, now that baby's not there anymore. Now, we're not running this anymore.
Now you feel the devastation at home.
Bro, it was
now your career changes.
Everything changed. I remember my wife, she couldn't sleep in the bed after surgery. I can't remember why. But I remember she slept on the couch. That's like where she could get comfortable, I guess. And I remember sleeping on the floor, just holding her hand. That's all I could do, and that's about as much comfort as I can, you know, give
Give
at that
her,
point. Yeah.
because we all know that we went through a similar situation before I had my daughter, and I think it's something that you never be able to comfort. Nothing really replace that feeling
No.
for a woman. Um, for and as a man, for a lot of people, they might say, "Well, men don't care." Well, we really do, because it's like, do we really want to go for it again? You
So
know,
there was a lot of, oh, you don't, what's wrong with you? You're not showing any emotion. And for me, it was more so both of us can't be
vulnerable.
vulnerable. Both of us can't be breaking down at the same time. One of us has to be standing upright to fight the
It's like
battles.
they say, one of them has to be the rock for the other,
Yeah.
because if not,
So
there's no.
and that's just, I mean, I've been like that since I was 13. Dad leaves and you gotta pick up the sticks. You gotta pick up the slack where you know where somebody else should have been doing
And
that.
at that time, how old was your oldest?
My oldest was 4.
So she really didn't know much was
No.
what was going on. That makes it a little, maybe a little hard. I mean, a little easy on that part, right?
Yeah.
But
So she, she knows now. She understands now. She's 16.
yeah.
Um. So we go through that process. I get kicked out of wrestling camp
Uh,
over a mistake. So when you train with Dory Funk, he gives you a contract, and in that contract states you cannot wrestle within 90-mile diameter of Ocala. I was their
So
champion.
radius,
Yeah, radius. I was their champion at that point. Um, I was getting pushed. I had just gotten a an offer to go to Japan, and I was wrestling underneath a mask outside of Ocala area just to get repetition, just to get experience, because I was so hungry coming home from Puerto Rico, and I'm promoting a show, and I accidentally sent him the flyer.
oh,
So we had a conversation, and I told him, I said, listen, and not him, because he doesn't run the school. He trains it, but his wife is the one that runs the joint. So I had a conversation with her, and I told her, I said, listen, I'm well beyond that 90 miles. I'm also underneath the mask. Nobody knows it's me. Nobody knows it's your champion. I just want reps. I want to be out there. No go. I could have fought it legally, but really it doesn't, it didn't make a difference. I was already outgrowing that camp. I was already outgrowing that environment. So things happen. It is what it is. Um, so I kept wrestling independently. Um, I trained a couple times with the Wild Samoans out in Mineola because Puerto Rican Hound Dog took me over there. That's what he used to train with them. Um, I trained with Tugboat in Tampa. I wrestled for his company, was their champion there. And then I just kept on moving wherever the money called. That's where I was at.
but you were still, so, and all this. Now you have your daughter, you lose a baby, you just come back from the biggest time, eh, the biggest gig that you thought that you had. Now you get kicked out of camp, you go through all of this, and through all this mix of that time, you're still working a 9 to 5, still wrestling, still
So
not making the big bucks that a lot of people think.
I was in and out of jobs because now I'm wrestling full time. So jobs don't like when you're not there. And I was like, you're not gonna tell me yes or no. I can't take a day off. I'm a grown person. And I've always been that way.
And that's one of the things that I've always said, man. Like, it's so hard to go work for somebody. I'm not saying the job is bad, but if you're a complacent person to that point, I'm a big believer that when you're in a situation like that, it's like you have to follow somebody's rules that it's not your daddy. right? And in your case, you said you got emancipated at 15 years old. Now you're a whole grown up and
Yeah.
taking orders from somebody, because of the money, because of that need.
So I lost a lot of jobs. I bounced around from a lot of jobs, from kitchens to gas stations. The only job that actually stuck for a long time was landscaping because our friend at the time.
So you worked in the sun.
Oh yeah, I worked in the
There's
sun.
no way.
Yes, it wasn't graceful. It wasn't fun, but I did it. And our friend, one of my he was a student at one point. Then he became a teacher for my martial arts school. Um, he runs a lawn business, and he saw me down in need. He's like, "I'm going to give you a job. It's Monday through Friday. You got to be there Monday through Friday, but Friday at noon, you can go and do your thing."
Oh, so he knew what you were doing already.
Right,
He
right, right.
respected
So
that time that he wanted. That he knew that you were trying to pursue a dream. That like we were talking about, you were probably trying to hit that next level. I don't know if you were or not.
always. So shout out to Chris My Hand wherever you are too as well. Helped me out a lot. So I did landscaping for a while with him, but I bounced around from job to job a lot. My wife always had the study based income because I was pursuing my dream.
You're
Somewhere
still living in Tampa at this point?
no, we're back in Spring Hill.
Okay.
We things got hot in Tampa for me because I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to be, and we jolted to Spring Hill because it was not so hot.
So that there was a lot of bouncing around.
Yeah,
So pretty much
throughout my
now you're
from
20
18
something.
from 18 to 23, I was either in Tampa or in Spring Hill, back and forth.
That
So
must have been tough for you, not always restarting because
it
no
was,
stability.
it was, and it wasn't. Like you make your choices as you go because you feel like that's the best choice that you got,
Mhm.
right? So you don't know until you know. You make the choices as best as you can, and then if it works out, great. If it doesn't, well, then we have to revisit and reorganize, right? Um, I will always love Tampa. I'm a city boy for life, even though I live now in Homosassa, which is more of country.
Oh my God.
But it was time.
Citrus County.
Yeah, it was time to start growing up, so to speak. Get out of the hood mentality and start providing and doing something for my kids, or for my kid at that point because I had one. So I left hustling. I left all that. We moved to Spring Hill. I go through the accident. I go to wrestling school, and now we've lost the baby. I've got kicked out of camp. I'm jumping from job to job. I'm like, all right, I got to slow it down. Got to pump the brakes somewhere, right? So I was all right. I went from mowing lawns back to a kitchen,
Back to the kitchen again.
right? Because it's easy.
For you, it was easy because
For
you
me,
liked it.
yeah.
Because you liked that at some point.
Not that I like it. I hate being in a kitchen. Professionally, I'm miserable. I hate cooking for other people. But I could do it with my eyes closed. And that's not me being facetious or stuck up. It's just it comes naturally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a kitchen and I'm driving home one day, Sunday morning. The mom and pop restaurant where I worked at the time was from like 9 or 6 a.m. to like noon on Sundays. Driving home, pouring rain. A lady makes the right turn, and instead of staying on that inside lane, she cuts all the way to the third lane and T-bones me.
Again.
Yes.
Another situation.
She hit me so hard, she pushed me onto oncoming traffic. And the way I bounced in the car, she jammed up my neck so bad that she pinched my whole left side. I couldn't feel anything. The nerves were so pinched in here that I lost feeling in my right hand, not my right hand, my left hand, my left foot, everything gone, the whole left side of my body. Call the cops, call the ambulance. I get put in handcuffs.
Why is that?
Because there was a mix-up in DMV showing my license suspended. Luckily for me, I always keep all my documents in my glove box. All my tickets have been paid for. It had just not registered.
So recently, you had gotten the ticket and
Yes.
you had paid it off, and then
Yeah.
it was still showing up in the system as you were.
So he puts me in handcuffs and pops my shoulder out. I can't feel anything. So when he reaches back, and I'm wide bodied, obviously.
Big boy.
Yeah. He pops it out. So there's a whole another hospital trip, another, 2 months in a sling or whatever. What I didn't know is that the nerve ending that was pinched had not unpinched.
Because of the sling.
Right. So nothing ever really came back. And I go to, I sued, obviously.
Don't tell me you had a big payday again.
Yeah.
Big payday.
Because this one came with a surgery.
Oh.
This one came with neck repair. So there's another close to 100,000 again.
And this was in what year?
2015.
2015. Wow. And so within 3 years, now you make another
Almost 200,000.
almost 200,000.
Ask me what I did with that money.
Don't tell me you blew it again.
The same thing I did the first time.
Went and bought you another motorcycle?
No
more motorcycles. Okay.
But I paid my rent. I paid a bunch of bills, and then I blew the rest.
So where, did your family ever tell you, hey,
No,
bro,
we
never
don't.
try to, help you out from the first mistake that you made? Or?
We don't come from money.
Yeah.
So when you get money and you don't know how to manage it, what do? You do what you think is best.
Yeah.
So you go pay your bills. You don't save. You don't invest. And then you go have fun because your bills are paid.
Yeah, you got that peace of mind. You got that peace of mind for that short amount of time.
That hood rich mentality.
Yeah.
Like waiting for the tax check at the end of February.
Yep.
And that's the wrong mentality to have.
I've been guilty about that. I've been guilty to where, I felt like at one point, every year we were buying a new car with our tax returns. Every year we had a new car because we buy a car, run it, and then it died out. We sell it and buy another car when tax season came around. That's that hood mentality, obviously.
And again, had I known then what I know now, I would have definitely bought a house then. I could have been like 3 houses deep by now,
Or maybe had your own. Well, at that point, you probably had your own wrestling camp or something.
Yeah,
at that point,
I could have been doing a lot of things, but because you don't know what you don't know, right? So in 2015, we find out that my wife is pregnant again. She wasn't supposed to get pregnant because she is missing half an ovary. She gets pregnant with our second child, or our third, but our second living. And that was probably the scariest 4 months of my life. Are we going to go through this again? Am I going to have to go through all that situation again? Thank God, healthy baby. You've seen her. She's a copy.
She's a copy of you.
Yeah,
copy of you. Big time.
And I'm in a neck brace because I've had surgery on my neck to repair from C1 to C8. So no wrestling, no martial arts. I'm working in a gas station, I think, at this point, because I left the kitchen job. And I'm wondering where I'm going to go next. What's next? Because now I got 2 kids, so now I can't wrestle the way I used to.
Because now you got multiple injuries. Now you got your hip injury. You got your shoulder pinched. You got now you just lost $200,000. Now you have
not just that. I can't take the chance of getting fired. I can't not provide and bring stuff home for the family, right? So I go to work and I wrestle, but I'm not wrestling as much. Um, where 2015, from 15 to 17, I'm working and wrestling, just working and wrestling. That was the goal. That was the routine, right? Spend time with the family when I was home. Thursday, sometimes Thursdays, sometimes Wednesday. I would leave work, go wrestle Wednesday, go wrestle Thursday, wrestle Friday, wrestle Saturday, and if I was lucky, I would wrestle a Sunday. If not, I was home resting. Um, and I would start the tour. The little loop that we would do was uh, Fort Myers on Wednesday or Tuesday, which is always such a weird thing to wrestle on Tuesday. Fort Myers, Orlando, Daytona, Thursday and Friday, Tampa and St. Pete, Saturday. So that was our loop. And every so often we would go, Georgia or Tennessee or Louisiana, but always back home, back into the Bay Area. And that was like that for a while.
So now you're traveling and going through, like all these different states. And how were you able to take off like time from work at this point? Like,
So
because I know you were.
the kitchen didn't want to give me no more time. My boss at that point he was fed up. It's like I can't keep giving you time off. I need you here, bro. Well, deuces, gotta go because it was always wrestling. So I found a temp job at an electronic recycling factory. It was supposed to be 90 days, and they hire you on, and then you're full time, whatever. But the schedule was great because it's 5:30 in the morning to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I could dip out at 2, go wrestle, and then come home. Right, I didn't have to worry about a whole lot. And my boss at the time was cool because a lot of the time, like if we got our production up or the production numbers that he wanted, he let us go on Friday and pay us for the day. So, I always hustled out like Thursday, Friday really hard in the morning. So I got like at the very worst on Friday, I was out by noon. Um, and I was doing that. I think I started there like uh 2017. I'm wrestling full time, working full time at my house with my kids and my wife. And then one morning I get a phone call at work because because it's an electronic recycling factory, because we had military contracts, we weren't allowed to have personal phones or stuff on us. I get a call from my wife, babe, grandpa's going to the hospital. I said, all right, go figure out what's going on and give me a call. My grandfather was like my dad. My grandfather raised two generations of kids. He raised his own, and he helped raise his grandkids. Um, my rock, the only one in my family that cold heartedly supported me, aside from my wife, while I was wrestling. We go to the shows. We sit and watch Monday Night Raw together. We always had the same argument. Always had the same
So
argument.
he had a passion
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
your,
yeah.
basically for like your hobby or whatever
He was a diehard fan, and he always had the same argument. Why is he letting him get beat up? I'm like, Dad, it's part of the show. Relax, it's part of the show. And he would always tell the people, he gets hurt, and I take the money. I'm like his manager. That was the joke, right? My wife called me, and it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Grandpa's going to the hospital. And he had been in and out a couple times the previous month. So I was like, he's going to the hospital, let me know. But I think it was like 5 minutes later. I get another phone call. And she's crying. She's like hysterical sobbing. Dad's dead. He's gone.
Tough one.
I don't think I've ever been hit in the chest that hard. And I'm a physical dude. Like I wrestle. I do martial arts. I've never been hit in the chest that hard. And it knocked me for a loop. The person that I looked to, the person that was like the guide, the rock, the compass is no longer there. And what sucks is like you never know when things like that are gonna happen, right? Because at the time we were a 1-car family. And he would pick me up from work, take me to my house. So that means that the night before, he picked me up from work, took me to my house. And we take things for granted. Because if I could go back now to the Monday before, I give him a hug. And I tell him how much I love him.
You had that second chance, right?
But instead, I was so wrapped up in the stress of life and kids, bills, and work. So tired because I worked in the elements. The electronic recycling factory was in a tin. I said, "Yeah, Dad, bendición, nos vemos, bye," and I left. We talked that night because it was Monday, so he called me after the show was over. Did you see that? Did you see? Yeah, Dad. It's all part of the show, bro. Relax.
Monday night.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tuesday morning, he was gone. And I went a little crazy, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of lost my shit, and I lost perception, so to speak. I entertained things that I shouldn't have. And just went south for a while. In the time that's happening, like I want to say probably 4 months before my grandfather passed, or 5 months before my grandfather passed, I'm wrestling in a hole in the wall bar on a Thursday night in Port Richey. There is a hole in the canvas. So the ring is composed of metal beams, right? Wooden planks, an inch worth of padding, and a canvas, like what you would paint on, just bigger. There's a hole about that big in the canvas. And I've been talking about it for weeks, bro. So we got to get that fixed, or we got to get a new canvas. We can't wrestle and stuff like that. But the owner, carny as he was, nah, it's fine. We'll just duct tape it. All right, cool. They put duct tape on it. We get to wrestling. Now, there's certain spots in wrestling, certain sequences that we do. When you have chemistry with your opponent, we don't talk. We just do.
mm-hmm.
When you have chemistry with your opponent and you're friends with your opponent, we're not friends, but you're cool. You just go. You work because you trust. See, wrestling, people think, let me get it out the way. It is predicted. I know the finish.
Mm-hmm.
I know whether I'm going to win or lose at the end of the night. I'm sorry. And while I'm going to catch heat probably for later because I protect the business a lot. But the reality of the fact is that we all know that. It is what it is. We've known it since the late 90s that you know who wins or loses. But what we do inside the ring, is it any less fake than a real fight?
But we've also had the conversation to where you say that sometimes that win or loss has to switch over because of a certain circumstance. Like in your case, you said that you were thrown back, and I think it was that you broke your your two legs or something like that.
So those situations happen. Like what I'm
Yes.
about, like where we're going at now. We're running a spot, and it's called the mirror spot. I hit the ropes. My opponent hits the ropes, and I stop in the middle of the ring. So when that opponent comes towards me, he's either going to hit me with something or I'm going to hit him with something. Right? It's supposed to be kind of like a trick spot. Where's my opponent? You're kind of chasing the cat. The cat's kind of chasing the mouse, right? We hit those ropes going at about 100 miles an hour. And I'm exaggerating, but we were going fast. Right? I hit the ropes. He hits the ropes after me. I stop in the middle of the ring. And I used to do what's called a black hole slam. Sidewalk slam with a spin. So I grab him. I go to spin. My foot gets stuck in the hole. Oh. So where my opponent's legs come around my body, when I feel that, my left foot has to leave the ground so that I can land safely. Not being able to do that, my weight, his weight came down on that leg completely. Oh. So I felt everything snap from my knee down to my ankle. And I'm telling you, like almost like when you run your fingers down a piano.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt my muscles leave the bone. Snap, 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 snap.
Oh God, that must have been horrible.
And in the video, which is on YouTube, you can go look it up. You can hear me say, "Oh F, I broke my foot." My partner rolls me out of the way, takes the pin. We finish the match. I get dragged upstairs because the locker room, for whatever reason, was in upstairs. And somebody says, "Hey, if you go to the ER like that, they're going to cut your boots off. Boots are expensive. They were brand new." And I freaked. So I started unlacing my boots. My foot tripled in size.
Oh my
almost
God.
Instantly.
Because you took off your boot.
Yeah. So I go to the ER. And I called my grandfather just to let him know what was going on. But for every injury I ever took in wrestling, that man met me at the ER. No matter what time it was. Met me at the ER.
He was always there.
Always there.
Always there.
So, yeah, I after that, I'm in a boot in a cast, a compression boot, because they missed the break on the first set of X-rays because my foot was so swollen. I go back 2 weeks later, and they're like, "Look, you got two options. It's already started to heal. You can let it heal the way it's healing, or we break it in surgery, put pins and rods in your leg, and then you go through a longer healing process." I said, "Man, don't even bother. Leave it." So they gave me a compression boot. I would have to fill the compression up by like air pumping it. So I compressed the foot down. And I just walked on it normally. But because I was already working at the recycling factory, I could not be on the floor without steel toe boots. And my office was on the actual floor, my desk area.
Yeah, so you had to walk through the warehouse.
So with no indoor office, they had to build me one. And at the time that they were building me one, I was stuck at home. No work. That's where I meet my neighbor. And I'm downstairs barbecuing because we lived in an apartment. Mad at the world.
Hey, now you just lost your...
Well, Dad had not passed yet.
Oh, okay.
But I couldn't work. I couldn't wrestle. Income was coming in through unemployment and um, disability, like a short term
Like
disability.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But it wasn't enough. So he comes out. He goes, "Bro, what's wrong?" And I explain the situation. He's like, "Dude, you ever thought about being a barber?" And I said, "Man, I've joked about it, but I've never picked up a pair of clippers, bro. I be messing heads up left and right. Nobody wants that." So he's like, "Bro, listen, let me take you to the school. If you like it, great. If you don't, that's fine. No harm, no foul. But I make this amount of money every day with receipt. This is your potential." I was like, "All right, man. Screw it. I'm not doing anything. Let's go." So when people ask me, why'd you got into barbering? I literally had nothing better to do.
So it wasn't like you had a passion for it. It was just
No. I mean, bro, we're ethnic. We're
Yeah.
inner city. We grow up in a barbershop, right? But I just knew that we made our own hours and made money and didn't have to answer anybody. I was wrong. But we'll get to that, right? I went to school and I signed up. As I'm signing up for school, a month later, my grandfather passes away.
Oh God.
So I haven't even started school because school had like every 8 weeks, a new class started. So like I was waiting for that 8 weeks to start up. Dad passes away. And I lost it. Like I said, I was entertaining things I shouldn't have. Things get crazy, right? Situations happen, marital stuff happens, right? Like anybody else, anything else. We're working through it. And we move in with my grandmother because now we're noticing, hey, she can't take care of herself. My grandmother was solely dependent on my grandfather. Like when we moved in, she didn't even know how to use her ATM. She could do it now. And then
so many years with him.
many years with him, he took
had
care
a
of her.
household. Yeah.
She worked in her younger years, but after a certain time, my grandfather took care of everything. He worked for everything. He was military, retired post office, baker, did a little bit of everything. We never lacked in that sort of sense. So she never needed.
Mm-hmm.
So now we're living with grandma, taking care of grandma, mutually helping each other out. And I've started barber school. Somewhere around December, we have our yearly evaluation at the factory. And my boss is like, "Hey, we're only going to give you a 3% raise." So I did the math and a calculator right there with him. 3% raise. It's only $20 more a week. Keep it. I was like, that's insulting. I give you the highest numbers. Both of my stations that I manage have the best production in the company, not just in ours for Florida, but the company wide. I said, I'm done. I don't want to learn anything else. Don't teach me nothing else. Put me back in my 2 stations. And that's it. So then they start treating you a little differently because now you're not working for them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I go home, I talk to my wife, and I'm like, hey, listen, I have 3 weeks of vacation. I got so many PTO hours. I got income tax coming in. I got my 401k. I think I'm going to quit my job.
You must have been like, you're crazy.
Yeah, she looked at me like, how are we going to do this? We're going to put away everything in February when we get income tax. And from February on, it'll last me until I finish barber school. So I had enough put away until like August, I think it was. I don't think I made it to February to quit my job. I think I last like another week and a half there. I was like, deuces. And when I tell you I burnt bridges, bro, I burnt bridges. I was short of taking a deuce on his desk. I burnt
Ah.
every bridge possible, so that there was no plan B. There was no going back. It was sink or swim, make it or break it. That was it. No more. And I went to school 13 hours a day,
Just to get finished.
5 days a week, just to get
Trying to
finished. And I went to school to be a barber. My program was barber styling, but I wanted to be a barber. The school that I went to, the rotating door of barber instructors was crazy. Like they would last like 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, and that hurts so much. The
It's
the
insane.
education. Yeah, it really does.
But I had
But people gotta understand too that majority of the time, I'm speaking on, not saying that every school is the same, right? But they also have to understand that majority of the time you make more money behind the chair than actually being a teacher.
yeah, and that's true. But I had a great cosmetology instructor, Mr. Kenny, wherever you are, bro. Shout out.
Great dude. He's awesome.
Yeah, and you know him. He's worked for all the big companies. And he was the one that really lit the fire for me, as far as like styling, the styling world goes, doing female hair, cutting, color, etc. And I was able to, in tips, every week make just shy $200 of what my paycheck was at the factory. Because you know, when you're in barber school, you don't get paid, you get tips.
Mm-hmm.
But 13 hours a day there, just doing female hair 13 hours a day, I made tips enough to cover what my paycheck would have been, minus $200.
Also, you were.
I was booked all the time.
Yeah.
I was solid. And then I meet you guys.
I remember the day this fool came in.
I think it was like 3 months before I graduated, I met you guys. You guys went and did the demo.
Yeah.
And when I clocked out, did my final clock out, I was like, crap, where do I go from here? I had offers to go to a salon, but I wasn't really down with the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It felt heavy. It felt cliquey. It felt
like it wasn't for you.
Competitive in a bad way, not competitive in a good way. You get what I'm saying? Like,
it didn't favor you at all.
Yeah, it didn't favor my style at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing my rounds and going to different barbershops and seeing, and
it's something that we spoke in the class, and it's sad that there's so many kids that were in your class. The amount of people that you had in your group, out of that whole group, you were probably the only one that actually reached out and came and actually shadowed and actually looked and see if you liked the environment.
Well, because I had no plan. I had no plan B. I had to do what I had to do. There was no other job for me. It was this in wrestling, and that was it. And I really wasn't wrestling that much because I was bringing this leg. I was working I was probably wrestling 2 days a week.
I remember when you were in school, you were in school, you were still wrestling. I remember meeting you there at Premiere. I met you at Premiere, Orlando, for the first time.
I had that huge black eye, remember?
A huge black eye. I remember that.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this dude is crazy. He's out of his mind.
I actually wrestled that Saturday morning and drove from St. Pete to Orlando to go to Premiere. I was like, I'm not missing it, bro. I'm going. And I had that huge shiner. So where my grandma used to live, her house is like walking distance from here. So it just worked, bro. We clicked. We clicked, and the environment here clicked for me.
And now you've been here 5 years strong.
5 years strong. I honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better team. We fight like family, but that's because we're here a lot. You know, so it's natural. We're gonna have our arguments like brothers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we're always looking out for each other. In those 5 years, I retired from wrestling. My goal was to have a big contract within 10 years. And that was the timeline that I had given my wife. And I wanted to stick to that. I didn't want her to feel like I kept moving the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And because I know how selfish the business is, how destructive it can be for a family. Um, so in June of 2023, almost 10 years to the day of my debut, I fought and I did my last match, which you guys went to.
I remember that day you hung up. That's the day that you actually hung up your
I cut my
boots,
boots off.
and you said, "I'm not doing it no more. Not doing it. I'm done." Seeing you were bleeding. Took a big beat down. They did a hardcore match that day.
Yeah, we
You left
went
out.
30
You left out with a
minutes,
bang.
30 minutes inside of a steel cage. I went out with a bang, the way I wanted to.
With your daughters, you had your
My
wife.
daughter was there, my wife was there, my family was there. You guys were there. But with that came other struggles. Just like you were asking before, was it difficult to separate the two?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know it until I knew it. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I cut my boots off in the ring, like it's tradition. When you have a retirement match, you cut your boots off, you leave them in the ring, you take your bow, and you exit. I think it was like 3 days later. I'm sitting at home, I'm bruised up, I can barely get out of bed, and it hit me. Who am I? For 10 years, I've been Taino. For 10 years, I've been the last of a dying breed. For 10 years, I was the meanest guy that you stepped across the ring from. You didn't want to. People didn't want to be in the ring with me, and not because I was dangerous, but because they knew that they were in for it, that they were going to feel it the next morning. I protect the business. I protect the business because I love the business. So I don't talk insider terminology. I don't give away a whole lot of secrets to tell you guys that it's scripted, that you know who's going to win or lose. That's something that everybody knows. What we do inside there, you'll never know. A magician never tells you his tricks. I'll never tell you what happens inside that ring. That's why they call me the last of a dying breed. But who was I then? There was no boots. There was no more wrestling matches.
Legacy's over. I mean, not legacy, right? Because it's a legacy after you're retired, but that fire's over. That reason is over. Now it's like what now? What now? All you have left is what?
Nothing. I didn't have. Well, for me, I didn't see anything. And you guys noticed it here.
Yeah.
I wasn't here as much. I pick up and leave. But I was battling this demon inside. It's crazy. I was fighting myself inside because I was like, man, that's who I'm. That's who I am. It's who I'm meant to be. But it's not.
That's where we were talking earlier, where we said where you fall into that role. Like that's that part of you. It's like what is it? Guy that did Flubber.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name right now. He unalived himself.
William, where he, even outside of doing movies, he was stuck in that role. That was the type of person that he really was.
Yeah,
So that's pretty much where I see what happened with you. You understand what I mean? Like, and in that aspect, it's like you lost your identity.
there's times where me and you'll go back and forth, and I'll shoot a promo at you, and we'll joke or laugh or whatever. But I'm Hector. It was more so me internally. I didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
So having to figure that out was tough. I went through some things through that. And I had to hit. I kind of had to hit rock bottom. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't drug related. It wasn't alcohol related. I just had to hit that space. I had to hit concrete. But the come up is always bigger than the setback, right?
Yep.
There should be. And last year, I was able to buy my house.
Nice. A come up.
My car was paid off.
Come up.
I started regrowing my clientele here. You know,
So for you, you feel like barbering has been a big part of you now. You've been able to achieve a lot more with barbering than everything else that you had. You had a job. You had wrestling where you were making money off of wrestling as a backup, and you were never able to achieve what you have achieved now with barbering.
yes, a lot of it has to do with the mentality. I think there was a lack of mentality within
Mm-hmm.
myself. I was focused, but I wasn't focused on the right things.
Yeah,
I was focused, but I wasn't focused on where I should have been. So once I figured it out, bro, within 6 months I had a house.
I remember that. You did that in a very short period of
and
time.
it, and
You
it and it was a pain in the butt to do it because when you're not bankable at the beginning, they ask you for every type of documentation in the world. But I got it done. We got it done. I don't do it by myself. Um, I think now is the incline. Now we start to see the incline.
where's Taino going now?
Taino takes a different role now. Now I'm a barber. I mean, I've been a barber for 5 years, but now this is what I put my all into, right? Um, who knows? My own place one day, my own shop. Who knows? My own company. But I know that it's a process. So we trust the process. We keep moving forward. And if I learned anything through this, is that I can't let my job or my career define me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not Taino the barber. I'm not Taino the wrestler. I'm Hector. I have to learn to live with me.
Mm-hmm.
That character that I created is very much me turned up.
Just a better version.
But this that I'm building now is a better version of that character turned
Yeah,
up.
I see it.
This that I'm doing now is a lot. I think I have a lot more confidence in myself as me, not confidence in the character. And it's taking me time to do that. It's taking me time to have confidence in me without the character.
So now you've been in the game 5 years. You said many things might come. Nobody knows. You're just working in silent and trying to make moves and trying to grow as a person. The legacy of Taino the wrestler, is there. You've overcome that part of your life. Now you're on to something different, and you're hoping to see bigger and better things within the future. Now together with your family, now your girls are a little bit bigger. Obviously, you're not going through the same struggles that you were going before. Um, Thanks to the barbering, as you said, because you noticed that you had to put your focus in the right place, and you've been able to achieve a lot of stuff that you weren't able to do at the beginning because you weren't completely focused. What advice would you give a new barber coming into the industry?
don't don't have your foot one foot in the door and one foot out the door. I know that it's scary to leave a safe job, but if I could do it, you could do it. If somebody has done it before you, what makes you think you can't do it? So jump full steam into a barbershop or into a salon. Quit the 9 to 5 because that's what you went to school for, to quit that 9 to 5. Go quit that 9 to 5 and make it work inside your salon or inside your shop. When you have no plan B, you have to swim. There's no sinking.
Mm-hmm. No other choice.
Nope.
No other choice. So I thank you, Hector, for coming out and giving out your story. I think it's a hopefully it inspires somebody out there that hears your story. For your fellow for your fellow partners in the ring, they'll get to see now part of your story, why you became a barber, right? Probably they didn't have any idea or why certain things change in your life, and now you're able to make it clear to a lot of people or a lot of your fans that have never known why did you leave wrestling. You know, you were in your prime, you were a champion for so many years. Why did he leave? Well, ladies and gentlemen, here you have your answers. He has gave it to you. We hope that you like it. But before we're done, who inspired you in wrestling? I know you said that
It's a
you
long list, but if we're gonna talk big time from Puerto Rico, you're gonna Rico Suave, Chiqui Star, Shane the Glamour Boy. From the U.S. market, Undertaker, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
how about in the barber industry? Who do you look up to?
Oh, there's a lot of those too. Bro Benji from PR is one that I look up to a lot. Um, Chris Benson, Philip Wolf,
Mm-hmm.
ones that I look up to a lot. You get a little bit more of the stylist, a little bit from the barber.
And last but not least, who would you love to collaborate with? That you say, I hope one day I get the chance to collaborate with this type of person.
CB, Chris Benson,
Chris Benson.
always. Like from when you guys saw me with that big shiner, bro, it was always Chris Benson. That's one person I would love to work with one day.
So you guys hear the man, the one and only Taino Barber, once Taino the wrestler. He says his goodbyes to wrestling and now into the barber industry. As you guys seen, that he said that his big collaboration would actually be with Chris Benson. That tells you that he's done with wrestling. So
Wait. Hold up. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot
let's go.
before we leave because we've been at this for 5 years, and now that you have a little platform, we're gonna put it to you. You've been ducking and dodging me for 5 years, and I will come out of retirement. I will buy a new pair of boots if I can get you in a ring. 5-10 minutes. Survive if you can.
So this fool from day one, he came in, he sized me up with his championship belt. Moral of the story, he caught me off guard. I was cutting hair. I came in with what?
Every
Six,
Walmart
seven.
belt possible. Every Walmart belt possible.
Since day one, he's had it with me. You that are watching, let me know who wants to see me in the ring with Taino.
Oh, dial in. Put the pressure on him. Put the pressure on him. I want him in a ring.
He says he can last 5 minutes with me. Let's see. I think I'm in a better condition than him, but we'll find out in the next episode. Oh, Taino. Hopefully, we'll be wrestling and we'll give you guys a show. Don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and share this content. Let's go.